There we
Hello,
go.
happy to be here. How's it going?
We're good. We're holding it together today, to be honest. We're doing a great job. I like your energy already, though, so it's already looking up here.
Yeah, I mean, it's super foggy in SF, so I feel like I have to, compensate a little bit for the lack of sunshine.
Nice. So Nitya, you're the founder and CEO of Para, which is formerly Capsule, which is a platform offering cross-app embedded wallets and authentication tools to simplify blockchain interaction for developers and users. So can you just catch us up, I guess, on the journey that you've been on to date with Para and formerly Capsule?
Yeah, absolutely. So we started Capsule almost 3 years ago, really with the goal of simplifying interacting with blockchains and really starting from developer primitives around self-custody. So my background is I'd actually been working in stablecoin payments before that, and basically realized that from a consumer perspective, it's really difficult to put any real value in a wallet if you don't know if that value is going to be broadly useful. Like I kind of think of a wallet that isn't recoverable is very similar to like a piece of paper with an IOU on it. And then kind of going forward, a wallet that you can't kind of broadly use is sort of the same thing as a gift card. And so really like kind of focused on really incrementing the utility of wallets. And so, yeah, basically what we build from the start has been wallets that are fully embedded in applications. So you can just use identifiers you already have, like emails, social logins to sign up. But then more broadly, let's say you now have $100 in that wallet, you can take it to other applications without having to ever deal with the seed phrase. So really kind of decoupling the user journey of kind of becoming crypto native in the sense of like leveraging the utility of your assets, kind of keeping that really separate from this idea that we have to kind of write down our seed phrases or like buy ledgers or just really go that full power user route. So just kind of giving people more options. And we work primarily with apps as well as ecosystems. So one of the more recent features we announced was Para for Ecosystems, where we work with a lot of different protocols and chains. So including teams like ENS, Camp Network, on really making sure that everyone using their primitives can access the same wallet. And so also more in the identity space as well. That's a bit of a mouthful, but.
That's great. So, okay, I mean, I think you made the case for embedded wallets there, which I think is, clearly jumped the shark, but you are taking a different approach to embedded wallets. And, I guess there's one world where, each app has its own wallet and sort of transitioning capital or assets between the two involves a transaction. My understanding is that you guys have taken a bit of a different technical approach here. Can you dive into that?
Yeah, that's right. So we use on the key management side, like fully from the ground up, we really thought about what is the most secure and usable way to make sure that people can access their on-chain assets anywhere. And so what that's really meant is building a security paradigm with app-specific access, but not app-specific wallets. So what that means is that if I connected my wallet to an app once and that app gets hacked, my wallet is not compromised. And so really thinking about that more foundationally, where I think composability kind of gets lumped in with decentralization as sort of a luxury belief. But I think where it really kind of comes down to end users is, can I use this anywhere? And that's why I tend to use this like gift card versus credit card kind of analogy a lot, where what's amazing about my credit card, we don't call them composable, but I can swipe it anywhere, right? I can go to Germany and swipe my credit card. I can go to Australia. I can go to Macy's. Whereas my Macy's gift card, I can't really use that anywhere else. And so kind of thinking about we like to frame things more in terms of the end user value prop of how do you actually move the on-chain assets you have and put them to work everywhere. And therefore kind of build a more trusted relationship with your wallet, even if it's easy to use.
Yeah, so you wrote a great piece recently that was kind of covering this idea, and you really highlighted this world of liquidity fragmentation we're moving towards. And as more large companies launch stable coins, they're obviously very incentivized to build these closed loop systems and vertically integrate. And it's the competitive world that they know well. And I think at the end of the post, you said, we're at a critical fork in the road between replicating existing systems with lip service to open rails and building a more user-owned open internet that makes it easier to move value. So I think, clearly that's your vision, but I'm curious what you Like how does that actually happen? Because it feels like it's kind of contrary to how these companies really think about building value.
Great question. We kind of think about this in terms of what is the exit path. So I think in most systems, and some people don't know this about Para, but we actually also have an app-specific wallet offering. Like if people want to fully own every aspect of wallet management, they don't want any auth, they don't want any really any user awareness of the wallet, you can do that. But what's important is that the exit path to that in a traditional case would really be export private key or kind of drain account and move it back via ACH into my bank account. For us, what that upgrade path looks like is upgrade into a universal wallet. And so kind of given that there will always be a scenario where a user graduates somehow, how can we make that graduation path a little bit easier than write down these 12 words now? And so that's a little bit of how we think about it. And I would actually say what we've been surprised by, because we talk to a lot of fintechs that are thinking about adding in stable coins and how are we going to kind of attach crypto enabled value props to our product. And a lot of it is actually starting to come down to ecosystem approaches. So if you think about something like Robinhood has announced their L2, they're certainly probably not going to be the last. Actually, part of this is, of course, enabling their primary consumer application, but then also building a developer ecosystem around that. And how do you make sure that the liquidity on this chain is going to be usable across the various applications and clients that get built on top? I think what we see is whenever any consumer app explodes in popularity, this is crypto or non-crypto. Usually the next step is to add sign in with blank. Gmail went to sign in with Google. That's how we have Superhuman. This is really just like a tale as old as time. And so how do we kind of set up these apps and these ecosystems, whether they're fintech or crypto, to basically capture the user base that they already have? And I actually think that sometimes this is positioned as counter to owning the user or owning the relationship. I think it's actually further than that. It's you get to extend your relationship with the user outside of the metaphorical four walls of your app. And so that's something we think a little bit about as well. But what we're seeing really is that a lot of these teams are thinking about how do we run an experiment first, but then how do we sort of move from there onto a system that allows us to attract the most developers, attract the most liquidity. And I think what we'll start to see is, of course, we see a lot of the rush to kind of issue like a branded stablecoin or stablecoin, but I think that's going to look largely like a verticalization effort. And so we're going to see more chains, certainly. But I think after that, we're going to see something very similar to what we've seen in L2 world in Ethereum, is there will be a question of how do we make these easier to talk to each other? And I could talk about this forever, but I think a lot of that has to do with fiat on-off ramps. Is the second that a user has assets on chain, it's so much easier to move those around. And I'm sure all three of us have seen this before, right? Where if I'm deciding between using on-chain assets I already have versus buying more crypto with a credit card, usually one is going to be a little bit faster than the other. And that's really just because of these being two different rails with two different properties. But yeah, I could go into that for a lot longer as well.
Well, yeah, I want to maybe zoom out a bit. I think the big news in the embedded wallet land over the last few months was the Privy acquisition by Stripe. I'm curious how that sort of changed the strategic landscape for you all. Does that unlock new opportunities? Have you changed what you're doing?
Yeah,
Can you comment
question.
on that?
Yeah, I would say not much has changed in the sense of like our product is continues to kind of be evolving in the same direction, where we think a lot about how do you take kind of this user authentication product and how do you turn that into something that ultimately has utility and allows applications to own their relationship with the user while streamlining onboarding, streamlining transacting. I would say what has generally just grown in the space is interest in the embedded wallet space and interest in what the wallet layer can do across both Web 2 and Web 3. And so certainly a lot of, I think every day there's a new stablecoin related headline, but I think we're starting to see more folks kind of go below the surface to what do we actually want to accomplish with stablecoins. And I think that's why stablecoins are, a lot of people are calling them like the Trojan horse to crypto adoption, or there's like lots of kind of nice phrases people have, but a lot of that really is that stablecoins have a very clear to articulate value prop that ties directly to bottom lines. So it's right, it's faster, cheaper, more control. You can kind of capture the full money movement revenue stack. And so a lot of those things I think are people are just like starting to engage more meaningfully with the tech.
So I'm curious, sounds like a lot of folks that are on the front lines of stablecoins and sort of this broader interest, or renewed interest in crypto, are talking to a whole bunch of new types of companies, entities, organizations, opportunities. I'm wondering, I'm sure you can't get into details, but what has been one of the most surprising types of inbound that you've got recently?
Yeah, I think with new adoption, I think people assume that it will be fully linear and gradual, and that maybe the most technology forward organization will go first, and then the fifth most technology forward organization will go fifth. But what we're seeing is really almost no correlation, where kind of ranging from the institutions that are 3 or 4 layers deep, and so as consumers we don't really know who they are, all the way up to kind of the like tech forward consumer names that we already know. It's kind of been across the board is what we're seeing, which is pretty interesting. Like it isn't sort of the consumer layer is going first, and then kind of the dev layer, and then kind of the the settlement orgs, but it's really just kind of been across the board, which has been kind of cool to see.
And I'm curious what's like the core reason most of these companies are interested in stablecoins. Is it, I assume it's not like fast settlement times or something. Is it yield? Is it like, what's piquing their interest here?
So really, like 95% of these companies do not own the entire money movement stack themselves. So somewhere along the way, in a payment, they're losing anywhere from 0.1 to 1-2%. To all of these sort of middle carriers. So really just owning the whole money movement flow is a big one. Things like being able to actually, like KYC is starting to come up a lot more. That's kind of a new trend that we're seeing. We've been doing some work with sort of identity providers to make it easier to kind of do proof of humanity on wallets. And then the third is actually it's sort of off-hour settlement, being able to kind of limit balance sheet risk with holding certain assets. So just being able to move between assets instantly is something else that we're seeing. And that is extending to kind of different crypto assets, but also into FX is another kind of key component.
Yeah, super interesting. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of developers out there that might be exciting news, seeing that maybe privy the app or the wallet provider they've used previously getting acquired by Stripe, great, but also uncertain about what that might mean for them building. Is am I just going to be having to build on the Stripe chain moving forward? I don't know. I'm curious, like, where do we send people if they want to dive in and understand the unique benefits that Para can unlock for them?
Yeah, of course. So our website is getpara.com. And then my Twitter DMs are open. So I'm just _NITYAS. And then you can feel free to kind of find us on Twitter, Farcaster, reach out to any of our team. So yeah, always super excited to chat.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting part of the stack that a lot of folks have just been building on because of how easy it is to integrate. But I think we're starting to see the second and third order effects of some of those decisions. And there's almost a sense of lock-in in some of these right now that maybe isn't quite obvious if you sort of haven't. Yeah, I mean, even us looking at the need to want to pull data from certain apps and thus the requirement to use certain software to be able to go do that. So I think a lot of the future, the groundwork is being laid for the future right now, and I think worthwhile at least exploring the various options, because there are more than I think most people are aware of. So appreciate you hopping on today and sharing that with us. And let's see, take away the liquidity fragmentation. This is going to be,
please.
My God,
please.
I've just been, you know how my solution to liquidity fragmentation across Farcaster and Base, which feel very separate for me right now, is that I sell the dust and I buy out the 11 a.m. token. And I try to do that at the top at the very least. It feels like the best use of the weird stuff people send me into my wallet. So anyways, Nitya, thanks so much. Best of luck.
Thank you, too.
Ciao.
Bye.